said chill, the day the earth stood still, 'cause we'll all be fine in the end. We've been home in our pad, feeling kinda sad. We just want to see all our friends. There may be no school, and there are so many rules, so many things to comprehend. But restrictions are lifting, and the threat of COVID shifting. Getting ready's here to ease your mind.
Real people with real voices telling very real stories. Brought to you by Getting Ready for Life. And a very warm welcome to the 4th edition of She Doesn't Even Go Here. We're back on deck. It's exciting times. We've got a great panel to kick us off this afternoon. Thanks to Getting Ready for Life. Check that out on the Facebook and the YouTube and all those sort of things. Good to join you again. The news is really odd at the moment because it's back to school, some not. Now we've got an outbreak of this thing again up in a Sydney school. So it's tumultuous times. Let's go around the panel. Legendary teacher after last week, Damien Spiteri, joins us for the first time. Hello, Damien. Everybody loves you. All your students love you. What an accolade.
Yeah, hi, Greg. Thanks for that. Students will have their opinions, but I'm sure that there's lots of students who love lots of different teachers out there. I'm just one of them.
No, you're doing a great job. And to my other side, I can never work out which side they're on. Liz Wyndham. Hello, Liz. Welcome. Now, you are a parent, number one, which is a good thing, but you've also got an extensive professional background, which I'm going to let you lead into. Welcome.
Oh, gosh. Okay, where do I start? So primarily, I'm the mother of two teenagers. I've got a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old. I'm also a social worker, and I've worked with young people and families for more years than I will admit to, but across settings such as mental health services, youth justice, and I'm currently in local government.
And there's no doubt your expertise will be in high demand, I would think, given the current circumstances and perhaps the ongoing effect from that. So I want to have a chat to you about that during the show. Dr. Glen from VU's back again, looking sleek and stylish. Hello, Dr. Glen.
Hello, thank you. Always very kind.
You've got a cult following after your... You really, really have. I was speaking to a neighbour who watched you and said they were very impressed with your work, Dr. Glen. We've got on the other side, we've got a couple of students, don't worry about it. We've got another invisible student. They keep, we had invisible, who was it last week? Invisible Calvin. Yes, and now this week we've got invisible Menaki. Hello, Menaki.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Just cowering in the ether somewhere. Thanks for joining us. And Jed, right down the bottom, is he down the bottom? Is he under me right now? Not in any other way. He's just lovely. Like, hello, Jed. How are you?
Hey, I'm good.
You very, very. Oh, the screen's changing. And Patrides, you're back with us. How are you?
Well, thank you. I've noticed Ali's just joined us as well.
Ali's just joined us. Where is he? No camera. No camera. So we've got two invisible students this week. Ali, you're with us. No camera, no audio. Well, I'll tell you what, that's value right there, Patrides. Thanks for that. How are you tracking, by the way, Maria? You're the VCAL coordinator, of course, at Braybrook. So it's all starting to you've just at the point when you've started to get this whole electronic teaching thing going. It's back to face-to-face in the very near future. I think it's next Tuesday. Is that correct?
Yes, and I think the kids are really relieved. I think from the messages I've been getting online, they're all pretty keen to go back on Tuesday.
As long as they can sign up for Damien Spiteri's classes, obviously.
He's the number one maths teacher.
He apparently is. Jed, I'll go to you first with that big smile on your face. Now we've got the teachers saying how much you guys are looking forward to getting back. It's been a real journey for you guys, hasn't it? Because first of all, it was, we've got extended holidays. And then it was, hang on a minute, I missed school a little bit. Now you're going back. How are you feeling?
Feeling excited. Really keen to get back into school, seeing everybody, especially some of the teachers.
Oh, here we
like
go.
Mr. Spiteri.
Good.
You're going to take on Neil Legend, Neil Legend
I'm
status.
getting a lot of love through this program, aren't I?
You really, really are. I'll tell you what. You're
Jed, remember who puts this program together?
Oh, yeah, and Mr. Spiteri.
Yes.
Remember who hosts it. Thank you. Dr. Glenn, I'll ask you. I mean, it's all smiles at the moment, but we've already had the situation that one of the biggest schools in Sydney, their students have gone back and they've had, I won't call it an outbreak because it's far too broad a term, but they've had one case and all of a sudden they've had to shut it down again. I'm not really interested in the adults in the situation, the teachers. I'm interested, how are these kids feeling? It's, you know, this has been a journey that no child in, you know, Victorian, Australian education history has had to go through.
Look, it certainly is a really uncharted territory for everybody. And, you know, a lot of what we've heard over the course of the weeks of this program has certainly highlighted that kind of sense, and then something of a roller coaster that many students have sort of experienced. And, you know, I think that it is reasonable to expect that some of that's going to continue as students get ready to return to school, and that there can be some of those levels of worry, anxiety about the prospect that, you know, perhaps it isn't going to be as smooth sailing as what they would have liked. And I know that a number of students are, you know, are worried about the longer term impacts of the period of homeschooling and of being away from school and what that might have. I think that's a pretty normal and reasonable kind of worry to have.
Invisible Ali and Invisible Monarchy, are we overcomplicating it for young people? I mean, we've already heard Jed say how thrilled he is just to get back. Are we overanalyzing this, or are you guys, do you harbour some insecurities and some concerns about going back?
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, I think sometimes as adults, we tend to overcomplicate things. Jed's already said he's thrilled to get back, and I'm just wondering about you, Monarchy, or you, Ali. Do you have concerns? Are you just happy to, you know, let rip, run through the school gate, see your mates, and of course, Damien Spiteri?
I'm excited to go back. I think that, like, I don't think anything bad's gonna happen, and it's our last year of school, so I don't really want to be spending most of it at home.
Oh, well, that's fairly emphatic. What about you, Ali? Invisible. Oh, no, that's right. No audio. We discussed that before. There's a hidden message in there somewhere. I don't know. Liz, what about you? You've got that lovely balanced perspective. You mentioned you've got a couple of young people who are going back to school, but you're also, you mentioned your, for example, your association with Headspace. Are you concerned, as a parent, about the emotional roller coaster for these guys, or in more to long-term and in broader sense that places like Headspace are going to be trying to, you know, help young people who have gone through this?
Yeah, I'll firstly touch on, I suppose, what my children and some of their friends, etc., have said. In the main, most of my children's friends and my kids are pretty happy to go back to school and pretty excited about seeing friends and just having a little bit more routine and structure in their day. And I think, you know, that's the same for all of us. Routine, structure is really good for our well-being. We thrive in a space where we can feel occupied and can feel valued and know what the day holds. So, you know, it's a tricky time from that perspective as well. But I mean, I think there's also a group of kids that will find that transition back, I think, quite tricky. I know that, you know, I think one of my kids will initially love it and then probably find, you know, the overload of being around so many people again really tricky when they've been in, you know, a contained space with just two other people, moving into a classroom of, you know, 22 to 24 other kids all moving around, the noise, the smells, the constant stimulation. I think for some kids, I find that quite overwhelming. So we might see that you know, over the coming weeks, some kids start to find that a little bit much and need to ease back a little bit, or have a strategy to be able to manage, you know, moving into school in a little bit of a staged way.
And just to briefly, as being a parent, and we all know, well, those of us that are parents, obviously, but being a parent, that concern you have of health-wise for your own kids, you any concerns about the actual COVID or corona or whatever it is itself, the actual illness that caused this in the first place? So you're quite happy to let them go?
Look, I'm not. I suppose I sit in two kind of different headspaces around it. I think like all parents, I definitely don't want my children exposed to anything that compromises their health. And they're definitely, you know, I do have some concerns about, you know, a lot of the unknowns about coronavirus, especially, you know, the possibility of post-viral complications and just a longer recovery period that some people experience, and it's hard to tell who's going to experience that and who isn't. So yeah, look, sometimes I have moments where that's a concern. However, I do think we're in a very fortunate situation where the response to the virus has been handled well. I have confidence in the school community that I'm in to be able to respond really well. And I'm confident that my children are both very sensible. So yeah, look, I'm not overly concerned.
I've got to ask you, Damien, being the most popular proponent of the skills of teaching in Victoria right now, you're going to have young people flocking to you, aren't they, in droves? You're going to be followed around like you've got a herd of, you know, paparazzi around you. That said, on a serious note, as a teacher, you're going back, you're right in the coalface again. Any concerns for you or your colleagues in schools in terms of, because certainly as you get older, the older teachers particularly will be, I mean, look at me, I should be falling down in the streets the way I conduct myself, but I've been all right. But are the teachers concerned about the COVID, the corona, the thingy?
Yeah, I definitely think there are many teachers concerned, those with obviously compromised health and those in an older age bracket. I personally am less concerned for my own well-being in this environment, but yeah, I definitely feel as though there'll be a percentage of staff that will be really unsure about going back and feeling a bit uncomfortable perhaps about the whole situation.
How are the schools, just in a broader sense, and I'll bring you in, Maria, as well. How are the schools counselling their staff members in terms of, I think Ali's with us. I think we've got nope, lost him again. Did I see Ali there for a minute? So he was invisible. Now he's gone. We saw him just for a break. Maybe he's just come back in spectral form. Miss Petridis, and well, I don't know. He was there for a minute. And Damien, how has your school in particular counselled their staff about how to conduct themselves and perhaps allaying some concerns?
We're going to have curriculum day on Monday, so we don't have students at school. So we're going to be discussing how we're going to be spreading around and, you know, dividing some of the offices up, and because there's some offices have eight staff in one confined space, and there's also some classrooms that are quite small. So I think we're going to be discussing that to figure out what we can do to minimise the closeness between everyone. Even we've got to work out what we're going to do in PE lessons. We're not quite sure just yet. So
yeah. So the OH&S thing really comes to the forefront, and everything else sort of takes a step back, and we've got to figure out how we're going to go about dealing with all of that. But there's nothing. There's no hard and fast decisions made other than obviously the social distancing at this stage.
And lots of hand washing.
Yeah, lots of hand washing.
And again, let's just steer away for a minute from the adults and the seriousness of the sobriety of the conversation. Manaki, what is the one thing when you get back to school that you're looking forward to the most? Don't say Damien Spiteri again, because we're all tired of that.
Yeah, I'm getting tired of it.
Ridden that pony into the ground. But what are you looking forward to absolutely the most? Is it a lesson? Is it canteen food? Is it just seeing your mates and talking crap? Or where are you going with that?
I think it's just being around everyone again.
Yeah, that socialisation thing. Did
Yeah.
it feel like a holiday for a while, and then you thought, oh, geez, I'm a bit tired of this?
Oh, I'd never wanted to be on lockdown in the first place, so I kind of hated the whole thing.
Okay. What about you, Jed?
Yeah, I kind of hated the whole thing too, because like it was my last year, and I wanted to be around like my friends and the teachers for one last time. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing all my friends and the teachers and that, just catching up, seeing what
catching
everyone's been up to. Yeah.
Cafeteria food. What's your thoughts on Braybrook College cafeteria?
Nah, we just
Too
get
expensive.
Nah, it's pretty bad.
I thought it was. I actually enjoy it out there at Braybrook.
Nah, Coles is better.
Coles.
Well, there you go. There's a
Yeah, we
potential
believe in
sponsor.
going and getting Coles or something else.
Is that Ali?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, hi.
Hi.
Finally joined. So,
You got a very deep voice, Ali.
yeah, sorry, I was just looking after my kids.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's terrific. Let's lighten it up just a little bit during the break, and we've talked about comfort foods. What about comfort entertainment, guys? Let's go around the table. I'll start with you, Mr. Svateri. Here's the big reveal. Is we could get to find a little bit about our teaching staff. What movies or TV series have you had as comfort watching?
I've been watching Michael Jordan's The Last Dance, and
Yeah.
entertaining actually. I've learnt a lot about the man and what it takes to be a champion.
Yeah.
Quite an incredible story.
Could have just asked Lukaku, he'd tell you.
Yeah, he would have no problems telling
No,
me.
it wouldn't. What about you, Liz? You seem like you've got a fairly busy life, but I'm sure your Schadenfreude, your little telly series or movies that you've been watching. What's been giving you that moment of respite in the crisis?
Oh gosh, I've actually stayed well away from Netflix, and haven't really done the Netflix binge at all. I intended to, and went back to the start of Lost in Space, thinking that I would probably, work my way through all the new series.
Are we talking the original Lost in Space here?
No, the remake.
Remake.
Yeah. But the first series of the remake.
You had me.
Thinking that I would get through all the rest, but I haven't. I've been my daughter's obsessed with Friends, so we've had quite a few Friends binge sessions, and that's about it.
Which one of the Friends are you? Who do you identify with the most?
Oh, probably a bit Monica, actually. I'm not the baking queen at all, but
Good on you. There's Ali down the bottom. Hello, Ali. We've seen your beautiful face again. Welcome aboard once again, my friend. Have you had any movie binges or TV binges?
Oh, yeah, I've kind of just been watching, I guess The Last Dance by Michael Jordan, and also, I'd say, Money Heist.
What was that
one?
one?
It's a really good Netflix series. Money Heist.
Okay, that sounds interesting because it sounds like a career on the Glen, Dr. Glen. You're always. We've had this discussion a couple of times, but what else has piqued your interest entertainment-wise during the break when we've all sat back and thought, I'm going to binge out on something?
Yeah, look, I've been watching Hollywood on Netflix, which is there's only 7 episodes, and so it ended really quickly, and I was like right into it and thinking that it was going to go on for another, 6 or 7 episodes, and then suddenly it finished, which irritated me, to be honest. But I was
sorry to put you out.
Yeah, well, it's a series about a group of actors in post-World War One, which doesn't sound overly exciting, but it's really, really cool.
No, I agree. It doesn't sound all that exciting.
I'll let you check it out for yourself.
Jed, what about you, my friend?
Oh, I've just been watching, like I said, The Last Dance as well. But recently, I've just finished watching Peaky Blinders.
Peaky Blinders, very good series, actually.
Yeah.
And Miss Petrides, what about you?
I don't have Netflix.
No, nor do I. What have you been watching?
I got right into Lego Masters. Because they're creative. I actually like lifestyle shows and things where they're making stuff and you can't wait to see what they're doing. So I'm not a Lego person, but I was just really in awe of what they were creating every week. So I watched the whole series.
I think having known you over 15 years, I feel sad inside to hear that anyway.
And movies. I watch lots of movies.
What's the most recent movie?
We saw 1917. We watched
Okay.
that last night.
Okay, apparently that's quality cinema. Speaking of quality, you're watching She Doesn't Even Go Here, pop culture reference. Nobody wearing pink today, although Paige, our producer, is, I believe, and Ralph on panels. Thanks to both of you for all your help. Brought to you by gettinready.com. Do you think, I'll go with the students first, Manaki, do you think this absence from seeing all your friends will change your relationships with your peer group in any way? I know you're all in touch in social media, but it's been a fair while, and relationships do change along the journey. Has this absence from being in their company, has it refined the way you think of other people? How's that affected you?
I think it's just made me more appreciative of my friendships and more grateful to be around everyone. Like before, I probably took it for granted, like seeing them every day. And then from being away from them for so long, it made me realize that like I actually do like being around them a lot.
That's a really insightful observation, Manaki. Dr. Glenn, just quickly, we've had this a couple of times, that maybe one of the upsides, if you will, to this lockdown for students is they've had a taste of post-school life, but prematurely, and it may well be that it helps them re-engage with schooling in a much more passionate fashion, knowing that the time window is now closing.
Well, I think one of the big things that people are finding through this whole situation is how much they have been motivated by having other people around them and being with their peers and with their classmates and in that kind of face-to-face environment. And lots of people are talking about the fact that not being with each other has really led them to notice a dip in their motivation and perhaps struggling to kind of get as much done as what they otherwise would have. And people do thrive generally. Most people thrive when they're surrounded by other people and working on a kind of similar task. And so one of the things that we might see come from this is a greater appreciation kind of that. But I think that there is some benefits that could come from that it might encourage that sense of independent learning that students can take into tertiary education if they choose to do that afterwards, where it is a particularly common part.
Yeah. One of the upsides too that we've learned from some of the students we've had along the journey, I'll go to you, Ali, if I may. You mentioned family a little bit before, but a lot of young people that we've spoken to have said that they've started to rediscover their own family and enjoy their company and taking a whole new look at the situation.
Yeah. Well, what I could say on the subject is, I guess, being in the COVID-19 lockdown, it has brought us together. I mean, it's brought a different kind of bond between families. Like, families can be more connected now, knowing that, kids are at home, parents are at home, everybody's more close together. Being confined under one roof altogether, like it doesn't really, it doesn't do anything but bring us more closer as a family, in my opinion. And I think it's been quite exciting. It's been all right.
Liz, I'll go to you from a parent's point of view. We've had a lot of young people expressing that very sentiment, that they've gotten closer to their family and shared meals and cooked and all sorts of things that they hadn't been doing before. As a parent, how's that affected you? Has it forged some bonds that perhaps weren't quite as strong before?
What I have loved seeing is my two being able to work together more. My kids are polar opposites in every way possible. I've got one who's, the highly driven academic kid and the other one who's the very social, physically active kid who thinks that the best part of school is lunchtime and recess. So which is fantastic, because when they do meet together, they bring out other parts of each other's personality that they didn't kind of tap into otherwise. And so it's really nice to see my sporty physical kid kind of push my other child to be a little bit more active, and my really academic kid help out his sibling with all the stuff that she finds a little bit tricky. So that's been really, really lovely, and definitely has built on their relationship. Though there's also challenges there, because one's quite likes a lot of quiet focus space, and the other one likes to be really, really active all the time. There needs to be a balance there, and so I often am the one who's trying to kind of moderate a bit of balance so that they bring out the best in each other and that they don't clash. And when you're trying to work full time as well from home, that can be a bit tricky. I've also really noticed that when there's just the three of us in the house, I also become my kids' social outlet. So as well as providing the kind of support to help them get on with school stuff, I'm also, when school's over, their entire social outlet. So you're juggling dual roles all the time. And that can be a bit tricky and tiring. So it's been a really tiring experience. There's been a lot that's been, really fabulous, and I'll hold on to as a precious experience, but it's also been exhausting.
What a time it's been in historically for Australians, Victorians, Melburnians. And Mr. Spiteri, you are clearly going to be perpetually Victorian Teacher of the Year, if they have such a thing. The Academy goes to, from what we've been told. But how does it feel knowing that you're going to go back next week with lots of students back in? But for the first time, I can actually recall ever. And I went to school back in the 40s, I think it was, or somewhere about then. But I've never recalled a time when you've got a whole lot of kids that are buzzing to get back. I mean, it's a great time to be a teacher.
Well, yeah, it is. I'm hoping that they do come back with a bit of a renewed motivation to learn and to get involved, and to be more vocal in the classroom and to come out of their shells. And yeah, well, I suppose time will tell. There's this, with this uncertainty, students may not be so forthright in coming out with their feelings, because they don't know if we could potentially go back into lockdown. Who knows? They might be more reserved and might hold off. That's possible. And
I don't want to go down that track, but that would be shattering, would it not, Dr. Glen, for young people who are still, as we've discussed many, many times on this program, which is magnificent and hosted by me, and I need a haircut. We've been through that thanks to who runs this thing? Gettinreadyforlife.com, that's the one. But that would be devastating for young people who are at that point in life where they're developing their own sense of how the world works. You would not wish that to happen, and the repercussions from that could be horrendous.
Well, I mean, certainly we wouldn't wish for that to happen. But if it did, I think that young people and adults will find the capacity to be able to deal with it. I think that it would be a struggle. It would be unfortunate. It would be a challenge. But I think we've seen a really good demonstration of a really resilient group of young people over the course of this, and I think that puts them in good stead in the unfortunate and perhaps unlikely event that lockdown was to happen again and schools were to close again.
Jed, you have no fears about getting back into the fray and getting back into school. You're not sort of secretly harbouring a thought that, oh gosh, I hope we don't get a second wave of whatever it is that this influenza thing's been happening. Not worried?
No, not really, but I kind of am. Like, it's in the back of my mind, but I'm not really focused on it, kind of.
Okay,
it's not really something that phases me that much right now.
Yeah, well, you're invincible when you're young and strong and good-looking rooster like you. What about sport? Do you do sport?
Nah,
No,
not really.
Music.
Yeah, just music.
I thought you might, being
Yeah.
Lismore's brother. What do you do? Are you a singer or a guitar player? What do you do?
Play guitar and a bit
All
of
right.
bass. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask you to play a little bit of guitar for us before we get you off air, because we've had a few musical guests, haven't we, Miss Petrides from your school?
Manaki also sings, and Ali also sings.
Well, that's what I'm going to look. If you care about me at all, Jed and Manaki, which you probably don't, but I'm going to try and plead to you emotionally, that I'd like a little song with you guys before we knock it off this
Here we
afternoon.
go.
Sorry.
Here we go. I think Manaki should sing.
I
Oh,
think she
know about that.
Invisible.
Manaki can't see you,
Yeah.
so you may
I can even do an intro,
Yeah.
Manaki, ladies and gentlemen, on stage live after 5 weeks on Broadway. It's Invisible Manaki.
Yeah, have you got your guitar?
Nah, it's not him.
You're a sad lot.
What
You
are
know.
you
Yes,
lying
it
for?
is. Come on, Jed. Give us a little
It's
something.
nothing. It's nothing.
Ali's invisible again. Hey, we're going to have to knock it off very shortly, guys. Part one of She Doesn't Even Go Here, brought to you by Getting Ready for Life. That's getting ready, but it doesn't have a G, so I'm supposed to be getting ready. It sounds more relevant, don't you think, Dr. Glenn?
Absolutely.
Your validation is everything.
Very
to me,
hip.
sir. Ms. Petrides, thank you for joining
Thank you
us.
for
once
having
again.
us.
Are you going to stick with us, or do you have to go? Because I'm having a break in a minute. I'm tired of my own voice. I'm sure everybody else
I'm
is.
going.
You're a jet, Ms. Petrides. Thank you for that. Before you go, though, make sure we get a song out of Monarchy, okay? Invisible Monarchy, anything. 2 minutes. Come on.
Nah, Jed, not me.
This is just sad. All right. I'll be up.
Sad.
I'll be up. Don't you start there, Jed. Hey, listen. Thanks to Jed, Invisible, and then Corporeal, and then Invisible Ali again, and Manaki, who apparently is talented, but we'll never know. Hollywood will never know because she refused to perform when she had the stage. All right. Thank you all, guys. Damien, you're staying or going?
I'm easy. I can stay if you'll have me.
It's just that there are people clamouring to hear
Sure.
every utterance from you. You are the golden child of Victorian teaching at the moment. So if you guys can stay, we're going to make a legend out of you. Not you, Monarchy, Invisible Monarchy. You had your shot. All right. Oh, dear. So we're going to take a short break. You're staying, aren't you, Liz?
Yep, I'm happy to stay.
Can you do a song for us? No?
Oh, you don't want me to do that.
And Dr. Glenn, of course, our resident psychologist. So we're going to take a very short break, and we'll see you once again in just a minute on She Doesn't Even Go Here.
Yeah, hello. I was just in my room, catching up on the latest episode of She Doesn't Even Go Here, brought to you by Getting Ready for Life. And I heard someone break into my house. Yeah, there's someone in here with me. Yeah, no. Oh, he's coming in the door now. He's coming in. Oh. Alright, cool. Yeah, no. I know who this guy is. Yeah, I can deal with him. Yeah, cool. Yeah, say hi to the kids for me. Alright, see you later. Bye.
Welcome back, everybody, to She Doesn't Even Go Here, part 2, week 4, and on the panel, we've still got Liz Wyndham. Welcome back, Liz. Look at that lovely smile, which warms the cockles of everybody's heart at home.
Thank you.
Good. And we've got Teacher of the Year, Teacher of the Decade, dare I say it, a teacher who will live on through the history books as one of the all-time greats, Damien Spiteri.
I'm still yet to see the certification of that.
And we had a talk during the break, so I've got a really interesting topic I think a lot of people will be interested in when we get moving. Dr. Glenn's back with us. Look at him. He's a good-looking rooster too. Look at how everybody's got a good hairstyle. It's just annoying me terribly. I should have worn a hoodie like Jed. Welcome, Jed. And Invisible Monarchy is still with us. Are you still with us, Invisible Monarchy?
Yeah.
who is having second thoughts, I'm sure, right now about giving us a little tune later on. And a very warm welcome back to you, Bill. How are you? Because we saw you a couple of weeks ago and you weren't tracking all that well. How are you feeling now that school said, look, I think we're pretty much going back? You any more uplifted than you were before?
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling better than what I was 2 weeks ago, but still a bit down. I guess it's just the feeling of loss is still there through the year, and even though we're back at school, it's really just not going to be the same. And I think almost everything that I really enjoyed doing at school, I still probably won't be able to do any of those things, at least not anytime soon.
And is it unfair? I'm just going on the observations that you made last time that you were on the show a few weeks back, was that now that you are going back, that high-spirited joy of celebrating your final year at school is sort of overshadowed by the fact that you've got so much work to try and achieve the actual goal, and that's getting your VCE, in your case, at the end of the year. So it's become quite the academic focus rather than the celebratory.
Yeah, definitely. I think that for most of us, we were really looking forward to the year because year 12, at least for us, is the year that we get the most opportunities. And knowing that it's our last time doing everything, we try to make the most of it. You know, for example, with formal, you only get 1 year to do it and it's year 12. I don't know whether we'll have that. And now that all this stuff has happened, no one's even thinking of any of those co-curricular activities or events anymore. Everyone's just thinking about grades. And I guess that's partially because that's probably the only thing that we can think about now, because other than grades, there's nothing else we can really do.
Is that also common to you? I'll bring Manaki into this, but going back next week, Invisible Manaki, because you're so boisterous and so bold and saying, I can't wait to get back. But there's also the reality is that you've lost a lot of the educational portion of the year. Is that a concern?
Not really.
Because you don't care about your education, or you just want to get back and party?
No, no, it's not really phasing me.
You're just cruisy, aren't you? You're just
Yeah.
Can I pop in there and say that, what Bill's expressed, I completely would agree that a lot of students would feel that way. They're going to go back and they're going to have a lot of assessment pressure on them, particularly your 11s and 12s. And they are going to feel robbed of these co-curricular activities that would normally be happening in their last years of schooling. Many of them would have died for the opportunity to do these events and whatever the school is organising one last time, but may not have had the chance to do that now. So it will be sort of a disheartening time for these students.
Liz, you've got a couple of young people, a couple of children, as you mentioned. We forget, don't we, I think, as adults, part of the joy of going to school is the whole social engagement, and it's the fun of having your mates around, the fun of celebrating year 12, the sort of things that you're never going to recapture for the remainder of your life. It's gone, it's done. And I don't think sometimes we perhaps really acknowledge that as much as we should as adults, and appreciate that.
Yeah, it can be easy for us as parents and adults to forget what that journey, particularly through year 12, is like. And so it's helpful if we can really step into our kids' shoes, because otherwise it can be tricky to see where some of the, low mood or the snappy behaviour and frustrations come from if you're not really stepping into their emotional space and understanding the sense of loss that can come from what this period has brought. And I think that will vary for different cohorts, different ages. Definitely for the year 12s, it's a really big deal. But also there's significant losses for kids who their whole world is the theatre program at school, or my son's particularly disappointed that he's missed out on his year 10 work experience because he worked really hard to get a placement that he was really excited about. So he hit the loss. So yeah, it'll be there's some really significant losses, and it is that wonderful period of grieving, I feel. However, I would encourage young people and parents to look for other opportunities to connect with stuff that's online outside of school. There's lots of community organisations and local government, youth services that will look to fill the gap of some of these, stage of life and celebratory experiences that students can't connect with. So there is lots of opportunities that are emerging online. So use your networks, use your resources, and try and connect with as much other stuff online as well that you can.
Bill, I want to defer to you because I know we mentioned, I know Liz mentioned theatre and so forth. Your passion is music. Now,
Yeah.
I'm going to hold you. I said to you a couple of weeks ago, now that you're locked down in your little garret and you've got plenty of time, did you write your first symphony? No, you didn't, did you? You're
No, I haven't. I've been working on a couple pieces. I think a lot of my friends who are also musos have also been doing that in their free time. But I guess there's not too much motivation to do it because, if it's at school, I guess you could always practice or find rehearsal times with your friends to actually make it a reality. But right now it's just, you're just putting it on your computer and it's not really materializing into anything substantial.
Yeah, I get you. So it's more the fun of being the Beatles rather than the brilliance of Bob Dylan. You wouldn't.
Yes, exactly.
But Mr. Spiteri, hello.
Greg?
There's teachers around Australia clamouring to know your secret. Listen, we're talking about curriculum now, and we had this off air during the halftime break. I've got to take you to task on this, okay? I am a learned man. That's not true. But I did go to school, and I always thought I am never going to apply anything from mathematically, anything I learned in this class. I tuned out in about Form 3, what's that, year 10 or something. I thought to myself, I'm not even going to bother. And you're trying to sell me, and this may be the secret to you being the greatest teacher in the history of recorded mankind. You're trying to sell me on the fact that mathematics was indeed important to my development as a human being.
Well, your own motivation for learning obviously comes from whether you think you're going to use what you're being taught or not. So I suppose that's part of the teaching is to convince you that what you're going to learn is important to you. So the way I do it in my classroom is real life experience. The students will tell you that I'll talk about the petrol prices and the current state in Jordan or Saudi Arabia, or I'll talk about, like we're talking in the break, you need to understand ratio. Well, I'll get the whippersnipper out and I'll show you a video and we'll talk about the ratio of petrol to oil. Like if there's no importance and if you can't see that you're actually going to use these things in your everyday life, then there's not much more we can do for you. But usually that's what ropes students in, the seeing that, yes, I will use this. So that's the way I go about it.
Not making fun. That was really well explained. And now I have a much fuller appreciation of Pythagoras' theorem.
You can go and mow your lawns and Mississippi Garden.
Yes,
over the weekend.
Oh dear. You're watching. What are we watching? She doesn't even go here. Episode 4. We're going to continue on throughout the year. Brought to you by Getting Ready for Life. We're a podcast. We're on live FM every Monday as well. Look for us on the Book of Face, and I think we've got a web page as well, which is a pretty cool one. So hopefully you'll stay with us along the journey. I just want to go back down to Invisible Monarchy, who's still with us. Monarchy, have you rethought about whether you want this big chance at showing your singing skills to the world?
No, I haven't.
Good on you. Oh, this is terrific. Dr. Glen, this is hard work, this mob.
Just sticking to the boundaries. Well done.
Well, you're no help either. Thank you. Which is,
I advocate for the young people.
I just want to break it up with a bit of entertainment because you don't want to end up with Dr. Glenn and I just doing show tunes.
I'd be okay with that.
Oh, would you now? All right. I'm going to hold you to that, Dr. Glenn. Ah, dear. Jed, we're just talking about the education element of that. What's your thoughts on maths? I'm just trying to put you on the spot.
On maths?
No, what? No, seriously, because this is your last year at school.
Yeah.
Are you in that invidious sort of position now where I met a lot of young people and they're talking about the pressure on them to make decisions about their future? You know, what are you going to be when you grow up, young kid,
Yeah.
and all that sort of stuff. And you feel like you're stuck in this, you know, this pressurized situation that you've got now, what, 4, 5, 6 months to decide your entire life. Do you feel that sort of pressure?
Yeah, I do. I've been feeling it, mainly for my parents, because they're usually the ones asking me, what are you going to do after school? Like, you have to do something with yourself. And like, sometimes they tell me, oh, you should be this, you should be that. But I'm still trying to figure it out, you know. So it takes some time.
Which you should be, mate. It's, yeah, you probably won't make a decision for about another 10 years, I would have thought, wouldn't you, Liz?
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure on young people.
Yeah, it is.
Liz, your thoughts? You wouldn't do that to your kids, would you?
I've got one child who has been very sure of what he wants to be from the time he was 4 and has stuck with that. So, yeah, so he doesn't need any kind of input or guidance. I personally think that the purpose of school is, and this is speaking as a parent and not as an educator, is for kids to feel connected, competent, valued, and given the freedom to explore a whole range of topics and find what they're interested in. And so I try very hard not to focus on you know, particular grades and work, so long as they feel connected and engaged and are you know, putting in effort. I do expect them to put in a bit of effort, but primarily are looking at how they can explore their passions, then I'm really happy with that. And I think that is a better way to approach education and successful life skills for them, to find something where they feel they can explore their ideas and connect with a vocation going forward.
I think it's also, Greg, if I can just, I think it's also, I agree with everything that Liz said, but it's also important to appreciate that careers change now. Like that, perhaps, you know, our parents or grandparents or great-grandparents, their generation was one where you sort of chose a career and you either went and did training in it, or, you know, you went to university or TAFE or whatever you did, and then you sort of stuck with that career. And working in the university system, I have people that come back and study psychology in their 40s or 50s or 60s. And, you know, many people come into tertiary education having already had 1 or 2 other kind of careers. And so you know, it's good to have an idea when you're in secondary school about what you want to do and to, you know, the reasons why you're kind of interested in that. But it is also helpful to appreciate that it doesn't mean that you're going to do that for the next 50 years of your life.
Yep.
It might, but it might not.
It's an evolving space, always.
I love the saying. What's that saying? You are not your ATAR score. You know, particularly, you know, for you guys that are in year 12 or in your last year at school, don't sweat on it too much, because you're going to turn out to be extraordinary regardless of what the score pad says. And I don't know about Damien and Glenn and Liz, but I don't think I've ever been to a job interview where they asked me what my ATAR score was.
And in fact, Greg, that's my final message to my year 12 students when I leave them, is that you know, their ATAR score doesn't define them, and I'm proud of them regardless, usually at the end of the year. So I want them to feel that they're successful, that they've made it to year 12, they finished, and they're moving on and progressing to the next, you know, pathway in their life.
It is the next pathway. It's the next step.
The next step.
It's not the end of the journey.
And it really, really isn't. I've got to tell you, Damien, if I may, in all sincerity, and I've known you, in passing at school there for a while, but I can see why young people enjoy working under your guidance. You sound like a really terrific teacher. So
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, your answer.
The best math teacher in Bearbrook.
Thanks, Gav.
Your fan. I listened. By the way, not only are we brought to you by Getting Ready for Life, but also if you want to email in, we're just as we speak setting up the Damien Spiteri fan club. And, all right, so just send your messages and your donations, and I'll look after that from there. And Liz, you are a double threat because you've got the professional side of things in your own young children, or not young children, but your own children. You've been an absolute jet. I know we spoke earlier in the day about how was the experience. You're a bit less concerned about me now that we've gone through this together.
Concerned? Oh no, it's been a good experience.
I'm terrible at structure. That's why when we were talking, I thought, I don't know what to say, because it just goes any way it goes. But you've been beautiful and wonderful, and thank you so much for joining us on She Doesn't Even Go Here Anyway, and maybe we might get you back in the future. How about that?
Sure, thank you. It's been really good to be on.
Good. I'm glad you're not frightened off forever. Young Bill, I'm sorry we haven't had much time to speak to you, but I'm glad you joined us. I know after the last time you were on, we had a lot of people asking about you and saying, I hope he seems like a really incredible young man. Hopefully everything's turning out. So we're going to keep tabs on you, if you don't mind, over the next month or two, because you're a terrific young man. You've got a soul about you and musical talent, and we're going to make sure you fulfill that, and that Glenn and I anyway, Dr. Glenn and I can come and see you at the Melbourne Symphony place where they play that. I'm tired now. I'm done. Hey, anyway, listen. Oh, look, he's smiling. Good. Anyway, Bill, thank you for that, and we'll catch up with you soon if that's all right.
Yep, no problem. Sounds great.
Jed, you're a beauty. I know I should have done what you did and wore my hoodie upwards, because I'm the only person on the panel that's got a rotten haircut. Thank you for joining us, and enjoy returning to school. Invisible Monarchy. Now, I'm just going to have one more go at this, and I don't want Liz advocating for it. Monarchy, is there any danger? No? Get nothing?
No.
Like suck and sap out of
Didn't really hide your talents, Monarchy.
And finally, Dr. Glenn, who was bold enough to suggest before he'd be happy to sing show tunes. So on this particular episode of She Doesn't Even Go Here, we're going to end up with Dr. Big Mouth, Dr. Boastful, Dr. Glenn, I'm sorry, is this? With a snippet from one of his favourite show tunes. Hit it,
look, I haven't even had time to prepare, so I will decline.
He's backing up that truck. Beep, beep, beep. Anyway,
so I'm with Monarchy on that.
Clang, clang, clang went the trolley. There you go. Look it up. We will join you all again, I feel, in about a week's time. Thanks to all of our guests. Stay cool, everybody. We're going to get through this, and you're all going to have amazing lives. We'll catch you in a week's time on She Doesn't Even Go Here, brought to you by Getting Ready for Life. All right, ringing the bell. That's a school bell, by the way. I'm getting ready. Are you getting ready? We're all getting ready. We're all getting ready.
For life.
Brought to you by Getting Ready for Life.
Stop smiling! Stop laughing!